So I've been working for the last few months on this project that I've made in honour of my maternal grandmother, Lilian Lloyd. She was born in 1893 and sadly she died in 1952, before I was born. I'd like to thank a few people who have helped make this project possible. I'd like to thank Nora Stocker, whose workshop on creating heirloom book rolls I attended several years ago and loved. I'd like to thank my sisters Lorraine and Donna and my cousin Chris O'Connor for their personal contributions, and Graham O'Connor for the genealogy he began and to which I've added. So the Madonna Lily was suggested by Lorraine, and I've used this as the front cover. In 1915, Lilian married Joseph Wiggs. He was really the boy next door. Her family lived at 10 Gale Street, Bow, and Joseph's family lived at number 20. After the outbreak of war in 1914, Joseph had enlisted, and in August of 1915, their son Joseph John was born. They now lived at number 17 Gale Street. You can see here Lilian had the name Jo tattooed on her arm. One of her jobs was a rubber sorter. No idea what that is. I can't find any reference to it. An early recycler. And here's an early photo of Lilian with Joseph and her baby Lilian. So in 1917, Joseph was tragically killed in action, and 19 days later Lilian gave birth to this baby Lilian. Baby Lilian died when she was a year old. We don't know how Lilian managed financially with a new baby and a toddler. We do know that Joseph's war gratuity was paid to her in 1919, and the sum was £13, 10 shillings, which is roughly £700 in 2020. It's likely that Joseph died in the Battle of the Menin Road Ridge, the third Battle of Ypres or Passchendaele, on the 21st of September 1917, serving with the 1st Battalion of the Essex Regiment. So we can't imagine what Lilian went through. So much grief and pain. We don't know very much about Joe, only that he was good at football, he won some awards, and that he died young at age 21. So what did you do in those days when you were going through hard times? Have a cup of tea. And we've got Joe here and Lily. And then underneath here I've just put the story underneath, because like most families there were some secrets. And in this little pocket at the end here, I've put a copy of the family tree as far back as I can go, which I will let you have a copy, a file of, and also some information on the back that I haven't been able to include into the project itself. Moving over to the second page, we can see here that Lilian was actually one of 12, and I've represented it with these blue and pink fly stitches. So we have George, who was born in 1879, Julia, Charles, Reuben, William, Alfred, Arthur, Lilian, John, Mary, May and Albert in 1905. Alfred died aged 4 in 1894, and it's possible that May was actually Lilian's niece, that she was probably the daughter of Julia, her older sister, who was in service from a young age. So in 1925, Lilian found love again and she married John Thomas O'Connor in Poplar. One of her jobs, she spliced rope. We don't really know what that meant, but it was poorly paid work that was done at home because Lilian had no formal education. And here's a quote from her son, John. "She couldn't read or write, but was the most intelligent person I knew." So Lilian and John O'Connor had 3 children, Renee, May and John. So there was never very much money, and this tragic life continued with the death of John in around 1936, and we think he died in an accident at the Woolwich Arsenal docks on a boat. He was struck on the head with a barge pole and contracted bacterial meningitis. So Lilian was widowed for the second time, age 43. So we've seen that she spliced rope. One of her other jobs was working here at St Andrew's Hospital, Bromley by Bow. She worked here as a cleaner. And originally this hospital was the Poplar and Stepney Sick Asylum and was renamed in 1920. It closed in 2006 and was demolished in 2008, and it's now flats. I have another few random facts about Lilian. Hair was very important. Hair had to be brushed every night and put into rags. And Lil always had peanuts in their shells in her bag. And then we move on to a photograph of Lilian at May and Don's wedding in 1950. So Lilian is about 56 here, but looks a lot older. and she died of stomach cancer 2 years later. Probably the only holiday Lil had was hopping in Kent. Whole families from the East End would spend a week staying in a corrugated shed on the hop farm and picking hops away from their usual daily grind in the East End, out in the fresh air, listening to the wireless in the evening and making their own entertainment. And if you're interested in seeing a bit more about that, there is a film on BBC Britain on Film, which will give you a flavour of hopping. The researching and making this project has been illuminating and moving. I'm so proud and thankful that I come from such a strong and determined line of women, though I think I might have been a bit scared of some of them. I hope my sisters, daughter, nieces, granddaughters, great-nieces, great-granddaughter and all of our descendants will feel proud and inspired to know a little of Lilian's life. Thank you for watching.